And welcome back. Texans fan reaction, week 6. As you can see, got a special guest with me. We got Curtis Brown of Curtis's Podcast Network, also host of the AFC South show. If you were looking for long form podcast that goes over all 4 teams in the AFC South, including your Houston Texans, Mr. Curtis Brown is the man. Thank you for joining me on a Texans fan reaction week 6, where we will recap the Texans season after the first 6 weeks of the 2022 season. Thanks for thanks for being on my show.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I've never really been on another Texans fan show, so it's actually going to be pretty interesting for me. Um, I'm excited. I think there's actually some promise ahead, but just depends on what your view of like good and bad is.
Well, here was my thought process going into the 2022 season is best case scenario, Davis Mills, we play him throughout the year. He turns into something. He proves he can be a quarterback in this league. Worst case scenario, we play him through. He sucks. Texans get a really high draft pick. And then ultimate case scenario, they suck. We get a good draft pick and the Browns suck, which looks like is happening. And we get 2 really good draft picks.
Oh yeah. And it looks like I don't know, with the latest development with Deshaun, that trade might look like one of the best heists of all time for a player. Um, Good God. The Browns are a mess for a team that's so talented. They just cannot seem to figure out anything, and that is so good for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we went into the bye week and we had opportunities to lose the bye week. You know, the Browns could have won. Instead, they lost, and we fired Jack Easterby, which is going to be exponentially important for the team going forward.
So that was one of the first things I was going to bring up. Jack Easterby fired out of the Texans organization. There was lots of rumblings that he was in Mr. Cal McNair's ear the entire time. He was kind of pulling the puppet strings. What do you know about Jack Easterby and the situation that the Texans got themselves into?
Well, what I know is that Easterby was a team chaplain at some point in the beginning of his career with the New England Patriots, and slowly worked his way up into a point of vice president of football operations for the Houston Texans. Now, typically, when you have somebody work their way up into that kind of role, they come from like scouting or, player personnel just generally, and team chaplain is kind of an odd one. Um, and like some of his signature moments, I would say, during his Texans tenure would be he was instrumental in the trade of DeAndre Hopkins. His indictment of DeAndre Hopkins having multiple baby mamas was a huge character deal breaker for him at the time. So he made it to where that was a possible thing. And then Bill O'Brien just goofed the trade physically. And that set the whole organization back. Oh God, at least 4 or 5 years.
So first, let's just comment on the fact that when they announced he was fired, I'm not sure if it was Ian Rappaport's Instagram, it was the Texans, or if it was Adam Schefter, but DeAndre Hopkins was in the comments with the crying face emoji, which is a cherry on top.
Yep.
I think he comes out firing for his first game back this Thursday. Kind of like a revenge game post the suspension and this. So just brewing up to be the perfect storm. But yeah, Bill O'Brien, I don't think Texans fans are missing him too much right now with Nick Caserio making the moves.
No, Casario has been such a welcome reprieve. For anybody who doesn't remember, Rick Smith was a decent general manager, and he and Bill O'Brien didn't get along. And then they brought in Brian Gaine, and he was all right for a year, and they still didn't get along. They tried to get Caserio while Bill O'Brien was there, and they ended up getting some sort of tampering thing. So they backed off, and then Bill O'Brien took the throne and just goofed it up all entirely. I don't know. There's really not much else to say about Bill O'Brien. The guy look at what he did to Alabama. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? How's that guy still finding work?
that's a sore spot, I think, in it will go down as a sore spot in Texans history there. Well, let's jump into some week 6, where the Texans are at, how you think they're shaping up throughout the year. I know you go over a lot of this in your AFC South show, so anyone, if they're interested in that, feel free to go check it out. You get around 45 minutes to an hour of great content. We're sitting with Titans 3-2, Colts 3-2-1, Jags 2-4, and then Houston at the bottom 1-3-1. Is this about where you thought they'd end up by the bye week this year?
I thought they were going to have 2 wins. I thought they would have beat the Bears. And yeah, I mean, basically about where I thought they would be. They've been in all the games, so it's not like they've been absolutely obliterated. And that kind of gives me hope going forward that they can kind of build on what they've established.
So now going through this first third of the season, what are you most excited about to watch for the last 2/3 of this 2022 season?
Dameon Pierce, the evolution of Dameon Pierce as the lead guy. Kenyon Green, the ability he has to just move people on that offensive line. There's been tons of games where he has come in and gone up against all pro talent and absolutely sat people down. And that's something you really needed to see out of him. But I mean, just the establishment of the run game. Hopefully, they can build something off of that with Davis Mills in the passing game. They haven't really done a whole lot of play action so far. When they do, they find a little bit of success. But I've been reading that they're trying to implement more play action after the bye.
Now, how would you grade the Texans 2022 draft? We got Kenyon Green, we got Dameon Pierce in the 3rd round, we got Jalen Petrie, Derek Stingley Jr. To me, that's at least 2 A+ so far, and 2 B+ to what could transpire into 2 A's. What are your thoughts on how these rookies are panning out?
Well, when the draft happened, we did a draft recap. Way back when, and I gave the entire grade, like for the entire class, as an A, even though I didn't really know much about Tegan Quateriano, who hasn't really even touched the field yet. I mean, just the players you named, I would say that they're probably an average of an A, grading out. Petrie has played like an all-pro safety as a rookie, which is more than you can ask for a second round draft pick. Derek Stingley is really starting to figure it out. He really baited Trevor Lawrence into a couple throws last week.
Beautiful pick.
And the pick was nice. He had a deflection down the field late after the interception that he made Trevor Lawrence think it was open, and then he just jumped up and swatted it down. It was a beautiful play. But I mean, Pierce is, a 4th round draft pick, and I'd argue that he's probably been the biggest draft pick so far, just because of what he's able to do on the offense. We still haven't seen Christian Harris, who I think could be, probably in contention with one of the best draft picks for the defensive side of the ball once he gets on the field, because hopefully he can cover better than Kamu Grugier-Hill. But this draft class is amazing, and I'm excited what Caserio brings to the table.
Yeah, and like just looking at some of Dameon Pierce's high-level numbers here, we got 86 attempts, 412 yards, which puts him at 8th in the NFL, 3 TDs, exceeding expectations big time. And I don't think anyone or many people going into this season expected that. So a nice surprise for what has been a rather boring / bleak start to the season, I would say, because we don't really like. To me, it's coming off that the Texans, they aren't intentionally tanking, but they aren't good yet either, right? So it's like, what are you like? The worst place I think they could finish is outside or towards the latter half of that like top 10 draft selection. Like it's at this point, I'm like, you commit to one or the other, right?
I mean, do you? Let's just say the Browns collapse and you have a top 5 draft pick anyway.
True. Very good point.
and then you go 8-1. If that's possible, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad position to be in at all. Um, and I'm forever the optimist. I think that there's definitely some things that need to be fixed, that can be fixed. That if you can get, like, particularly Davis Mills in an ineptitude to throw the ball to anybody but Rex Burkhead on third down, or just it's the slight overthrows that he's had that he doesn't have on tape last season. Like, those little things can be corrected. He's just nervous. You got to
Mhm.
calm him down. There's a lot of pressure on the guy right now, and he's still not giving the game away in most occasions. So I mean, there's things to look forward to, especially with this 3 games in 11 days stretch coming up.
Well, let's look at some of Davis Mills' numbers here. He's ranked 22nd for yards with 1,048, 23rd five TDs thrown, and then 15th in interceptions, where that's been a little bit more of a negative than I thought it would be going into the season. And then if we were looking at QBR, ranked 30th, do you think he rightfully deserves to be the whipping boy as of the last few weeks, especially weeks 2 and 3?
Um, I wouldn't say that he has done anything uh, to not make him the whipping boy. But if you watch what he has done and you compare it to what Marcus Mariota did when he was with his last year with the Titans, right before Tannehill came in, they were 2-4, and he was under a lot of pressure. He felt, the breath of Ryan Tannehill breathing down his neck. So he played conservative. He didn't stretch the field very much. If there wasn't an open receiver, he was going to tuck it down and run with it, but that's because Marcus Mariota can do that. Whereas Davis Mills, I think, is, if he doesn't trust the throw, he's going to throw it at the receiver, but like way overhead. And that's just not something. You got to give your guy a chance to throw, or a chance to make the catch. And look, he's not anything that I didn't expect him to be so far. This is still like his 17th game as a pro. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I read a stat that he's only played like 30 games between his sophomore year in college and week 7.
So are you in the mindset of let him finish out the season, make a change depending on the draft this year, or are you willing to let him like see this through into next season? Where do you draw the line?
Okay, well, you're going to figure out if Davis Mills is the guy this season. The way you figure that out is if he meets the whatever the turnover mark is for the coaching staff, and a certain number of wins. It doesn't really matter if he plays beautifully or not. Some of that can be attributed to the coaching staff, or play calling, or whatever, uh, the personnel that are in. Because I mean, there's been games where he's been absolutely under assault back there, and not many players can play that well like that. So, I mean, yeah, you're definitely going to know what you got with Davis Mills by the end of this season. I don't think it extends any further. Do I want any of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft? Maybe not. Um, I'm sold on Hendon Hooker from Tennessee, and I think you could get him way later and save the draft picks for offensive line and defensive line.
Is that what you're going with if you have 2 top 10 picks?
Oh, absolutely. If I have 2 top 10 picks, I'm probably keeping one, like the earliest pick, and trading back the later pick, and that way I can possibly pick up future picks and just move back in the first and pick up somebody that I still wanted. That would be the ideal situation.
Now let's move on to a popular name who I would say is sort of breaking out, but hasn't quite got there. Nico Collins, first in the team for yards, however, targeted second most behind Brandon Cooks still. What are your thoughts on Nico Collins' season so far, and when do you see that transition finally happening where Collins overtakes Brandon Cooks as the wide receiver 1 spot?
I think that'll be if Cooks gets hurt, honestly. Um, Cooks gets all those targets because he's the guy. That's the guy you want for, you know, 2 to 7 yards on every play, and the ability to take the top off the defense. Um, Nico Collins is a field stretcher with a 6'4" frame that can jump out the gym. Um, there's a lot that he can do that Brandon Cooks can't. So I think you need to look at Brandon as more of like a Chris Godwin kind of receiver, and then you look at Mike Evans and Nico Collins as like the same archetype, I guess. Maybe not the same caliber, but the same archetype. Um, I mean, both can be good in their own right, but I think you have to have the slot guy gets more targets, and that's more often than not what Brandon Cooks is going to be doing compared to Nico, just from an
Um,
offensive standpoint, scheme wise.
well, hey, if you're saying those are the comparisons, the future is definitely bright. We just need Tom Brady in here.
Yeah. Yeah, if we could get Brady, he might live to be 100 and play until he's 75. There's definitely a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Who are you most excited about on the Texans right now? Maybe not necessarily through the first third of the season, but that no one's really paying attention to or has not quite got the spotlight you think they deserve.
I kind of touched on Christian Harris earlier, mostly because we haven't seen him. That's somebody I'd put into that category. Again, out of Alabama in the third round, he was the only player selected by the Texans last year where the entire staff got together and hugged after the pick. That tells me they had this guy graded a little differently than everybody else, and they were just ecstatic that he was still there. So I think there's a lot of things that he can do that people should be watching out for. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's going to be some games here where I think Davis Mills has the opportunity to actually like throw the ball. And it's going to be weird, but I think he has a couple opportunities. I mean, you got the Raiders coming in who look good for 3 quarters and can't close out a game. And then you got the Titans who can't stop anybody from throwing the ball. And then the Eagles on a Thursday night game, assuming they're still undefeated.
That's gonna be a
I
fun
like
one.
that opportunity. Yeah.
Fun fact: only NFL game I've been to was in Philadelphia. Wild time, great city.
What game?
Terrible fans. It
Oh,
was
I've heard that a lot.
Redskins Eagles 2019 Monday nighter. Eagles won. Watched an entire group of people throw a drink at a girl who was wearing a Redskins Christmas sweater at the tailgate. That's how insane. I was like, oh, these people are. I'm as a Canadian, like you just don't see that here. So,
Yeah.
wild
Yeah,
time.
sorry about that. You should go to a Bills game. They send people through
Well,
tables.
if you sort the channels or the videos on this channel by most popular, it happens to be the one where Texans lost 40-0 last year, and Bills fans just obliterated the video views. And I mean, I clowned myself a little bit by probably exaggerating a little much, but I just want to do one quick, maybe fun interactive thing that maybe we can look back on during week 12 and kind of go through the schedule here one by one. And we'll kind of predict, I want to get your prediction on how the Texans finish up the season. So we're coming into this week, this Sunday, Texans Raiders. How do you think the Texans fare for this one?
Well, I think the Raiders have been struggling this season. I think they've often found themselves in a hole. And I mean, there's one time where the Cardinals, who have looked pathetic at times, dug their way out of a 24-point hole into an overtime win in a matter of like 7 minutes of fourth quarter game time and overtime. There's definitely some potential here, even though this is a team that some people had going to the playoffs in their preseason predictions. So I think the Texans have a chance here. They just need to keep it close, run the ball with Pierce.
So you got Texans winning this one.
I got the Texans winning this one.
Okay.
I
Marking
know.
that one down. Moving on, Following week, we got Titans, Texans. I have a feeling you also may favor the Texans in this one due to your earlier comments.
Yeah, the Titans and the Texans usually have really close games. Um, so I mean, I think they're good for a split every season. This one's at home, right? This one's in Houston.
Yeah.
I think the Titans will win this one.
Okay. Texans, Eagles.
Thursday night, off a division loss to the Titans. I assume the Eagles are still going to be undefeated. Nobody's going to give us a shot. I'm going the surprise upset win.
Okay, I love it. Texans, Giants.
Saquon's still safe, right? He's not like hurt.
Nope.
I got to go Giants.
Okay. We got Commanders, Texans.
I think Houston's got that one.
I think so too. I don't know what Commanders will be doing with their quarterback situation. Texans, Dolphins.
It depends. I feel like is Tua gonna play? Yeah, I'll probably have to go with the Dolphins, assuming Tua is active.
Okay. Browns, Texans, Deshaun Watson's return.
Houston gets the win on that one. Deshaun
that
hasn't
one.
played a real game since like 2020. So
Texans, Cowboys.
I hate the Cowboys. So Texans.
Love it. Chiefs, Texans. I think we know the answer to this one.
Yeah, it's Chiefs.
Texans, Titans.
This one's away. Hey. Hold on. Will you open the door, please, and get him out of here?
Love it.
My lady just got home. Sorry. Yeah. No, the Titans are at home, right? So we'll take that one.
Okay. Jags, Texans.
We'll sweep the Jags. So yeah.
Wow. And then Texans, Colts.
God, see, this one's difficult because the Colts choke every final game of the year. Yeah, I think we're gonna win this one.
Okay, so we got the predictions here: 9-7-1 to finish the season. We'll reflect back on this one week 12 to see how your guesses are going. Hey, 9-7-1 at that point might be good enough for a playoff spot yet. How crazy would that be? AFC South always you could break even. I guess can't really break even as much anymore, but
we can. We can with the tie,
yeah. But always good for a 9-7 team previously to make the playoffs in that division. Mm-hmm. One last question for you. I gotta find it here.
Okay.
I got my Watt jersey, only jersey I've had since I think 2018. Obviously, since Watt is no longer a Texan, I will need to upgrade my jersey. Your recommendation on who I should get going forward?
I had a Deshaun Watson jersey that one of my co-hosts lives in Houston. So he actually got him to go up to the team's shop and do the exchange. So I'm getting a Dameon Pierce. But it was between Pierce and Petrie, to be honest.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to get a Pierce one. The other part of me wants to get a Brian Cushing one, like throwback. And then to go maybe a little bit, maybe not off the board, but probably not as popular right now, I would think go for maybe a Collins one. So Collins or Pierce, I got
Malik Collins. Nico or Malik? Collins,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want like a this generation team, for these next few seasons, something that reflects and represents them. So something I got to get on over the next few months. But thank you so much for taking some time to do the Texans fan reaction. We had the week 6 break here, so wasn't able to put out a video reacting to any games. And yeah, if people enjoy this, we'll maybe do it week 12 and then week 18 to reflect on it and reflect on the 2022 season. If you guys are interested in AFC content, Texans content, please go check out the AFC South show. They got 4 people just shooting the shit on that one. You get a representative from every single team, so you get some nice banter between the 4. So Curtis, thank you so much for joining, and we'll collab again soon.
Justin, thanks for having me on, bro. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was.